Hey everybody, it's Reasonable Eating Algorithm 12. It's the launch. We're saying that the important thing to focus on this week is to eat what you control and not leave what you put in your body to chance or perhaps to large food companies, big food as it's commonly referred to these days. It's a really interesting concept, but most of us have started being aware a little bit of what's on the labels, and we notice as you notice that there's an incredible number of games that people are playing these days, and you see things like organic cane crystals as an ingredient, and you think, oh, that sounds fantastic. I wonder what organic cane crystals are. And of course they are it's just basically sugar. Okay, so it's organic sugar, but cane crystals or raw cane crystals or dried cane dried cane crystals, dried cane anything, extract, stuff like that is basically just sugar by disguise. So we've got to be very careful about what's going on. Basically, my golden rule for this: if it needs a label, don't eat it. If it needs a label, I mean, I do actually buy organic dates delivered from Amazon, and it does have a label on that, and it says ingredients, dates. That's it, ingredients, dates. And sometimes you do see things packaged in a supermarket, and it's like golden, whatever it is, some sort of vegetable, or tender stem broccoli, and ingredients tender stem broccoli, and that's it. But really, things shouldn't need labels. The only reason they need labels is because there's stuff in there that didn't grow into that particular organic configuration, molecular configuration, should we say, organic used in the general sense rather than the food specific sense. Anyway, let's pop on with the screen share. Stop me whittering on about all sorts of stuff. I'm going to take you through the document, which is Eat What You Control. This is, of course, the final of the 12 algorithms now. We're actually at the stage where we've completed the cycle. Next week will be the review of it, see how we got on, see how we progressed in all these areas. The 12th algorithm completes the what you eat domain, and if we skip right to the end, sorry, that'll be quite fast on the video, but skip right to the end, you'll see that the what domain is, did it grow into its shape, which is massive. Then eat a high nerd, which is a high nutrition to energy ratio diet. So it's okay to eat high energy food if they've also got a lot of nutrition. It's not okay to eat high energy food if there's no accompanying nutrition. And then the third of the what domain is eat what you control. So what's this all about, eating what you control? Okay, let's get back to the central idea. It's all to do with cultivating and preparing. Cultivating doesn't necessarily mean you grow it yourself. And preparation doesn't necessarily mean you prepare it yourself, but ideally the pinnacle of health would be grown at home, prepared at home. Now, you're not going to get there, of course. You're not going to get there for every meal or even most meals, both of those. But in general, if you look at this scale here, you've got factory at one end and you've got home at the other end. You can control here, home. You can't control factory. So you want to be moving on this general scale of things. You want to be moving closer towards the healthier end, which is this end. And it is about balance, as I say. This is all about reasonable eating, not fanatical eating. You're not going to be able to I mean, it's unrealistic. It's unreasonable for you to be able to grow all your food, or even a lot of us to grow any of our food. It's just not going to be that practical. But the questions you need to ask yourself: do you actually know what you're eating? So question number one: do you know what you're eating? Do you know where it came from? Do you know how it grew? Do you know how it lived if it was alive, whether it's plants or animals? Do you know how it lived? Do you know what it ate? So if you're eating meat, do you know what the animal that you're eating was eating when it was alive? And so it's not just you are what you eat, but you are what you ate. Or does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. So eat what you control. The scale of preparation is the first diagram we're going to have a look at. Again, you've got the factory on one end of the scale and you've got home on the other end. And essentially, you've got a chain which will include in terms of preparation, would have things like, well, it could be fast food restaurant, restaurant chain, specialty restaurant, and then home. And you want your average position for all your meals to be moving towards the right-hand side of the scale. So preparation includes everything after the food has grown: washing, arranging, cooking. So it's just a simple thing, with your current rating, you could position yourself somewhere on a scale here. And it's not about really, when we actually have the app that's running, we're going to have sliders for this. So it's not about exactly getting 3 stars or 4 stars or 2 stars, but in general, what you want to be doing is looking at a meal, and then you've got a slider. Where am I going to position myself on this sliding scale on the phone to record my, in the domain or the area of preparation, roughly how much control I've had over this. And Eat What You control the scale of cultivation, and this is everything from an industrial farm, big agriculture, and all that bad stuff, right down to perhaps obviously home with the next best to it, like a macrobiotic farm, which is a farm that's organic, but they pay special attention to the soil and the cycles of the soil and the balance and the regenerative approach to farming. It's possible to be hugely organic, but not really regenerative. If you planted potatoes in the same spot all the time, absolutely always, not only would your yield go down because those nutrients were eventually that potatoes needed would be run dry from the soil, but it would be possible for you not to have any pesticides or anything like that to qualify as organic without necessarily producing the best quality food. So, but then you've got private farm, and of course you could let's not agonize over this. You can have some private farms which are further to the right than the organic farm and so on, or organic farms which aren't private and so on. But let's not agonize over this. Let's just say roughly, are we moving in general towards, when you are looking at where the stuff that you put in your mouth actually grew, where was it on this scale? And then Eat What You control scale of purchase. The last thing you want to be doing is buying food from a gas station. I think you'd be much better off being hungry. If you have to get something from a gas station, get a coffee, get a black coffee, get some sparkling water. If you really, really, really are hungry, then I think you probably get by with drinking. If you're absolutely starving, absolutely famished, then the sort of thing you would do is try and get something which is, you probably won't find vegetables in a gas station, but try and get something which has got at least a high nutrition to energy ratio, so maybe some cheese or something like that. But most of the time I go into a gas station and there's nothing in there that I could eat or even want to eat. There are some things in the UK called naked bars, NAKD, and they're about as close as you can get to decent stuff. Usually it's cold pressed, things like dates and nuts, and sometimes fruits like raisins as well, and occasionally they put cocoa powder in and things like that. But I went into there's a petrol station, gas station, we call them petrol stations in the UK, on the M25, very famous one. It's called Clackett Lane Service Station. I went into the station there looking for these snacks because I'd seen them before and I'd got them from them. I said, "Hey, you're not carrying naked bars anymore?" He said, "Yeah, no, we don't do them anymore." I said, "Really? What's going on?" I said, "They're great." He says, "Yeah, I thought they were great, but you know what? They didn't shift. No one bought them because when you're in the heat of the moment, if you're not aware of what's going, you'll get to the counter, you're paying for your petrol, and you're thinking, oh, I'm quite peckish now. What should I have? Should I have a really healthy naked bar, or should I have a Twix or something like that? And you know what? That is not the point to attack. You don't make decisions about healthy eating at the point where you're feeling hungry and just at the point of purchase. I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't already decided in advance what I was going to eat, and I would succumb just like anybody. I am not the sort of person that can open a bottle of wine, pour out a glass of wine, hold the glass of wine in my hand, bring it to my lips, smell it, and then decide through sheer willpower that I'm not going to drink it. I can't do that. If I decide I don't want to drink wine, I leave the wine in the shop. That gives me the best chance of not actually drinking it. So it's very difficult, really, for people when you haven't made this decision in advance, you haven't gone through the whole process. at the point of purchase, and when you're feeling a bit peckish, you know, grab a coffee and then you get a chocolate brownie, or you get a Mars bar or a Twix or something like that. Which is why these point of sale items are so profitable. I was talking to a guy in the petrol station. So he said he makes more money from the snacks than he does from the fuel. And I don't know whether that was true. I didn't bother to do the research. I wasn't that interested. But anyway, sorry, that was a lot of waffle about gas station. But then you've got convenience store, things like a 7-Eleven, then you've got a supermarket, and then a farmer's market, and ideally a home garden. You know, ideally you want to be buying things from as close to the source as possible, and with the minimum intervention of human hands. So that's really it. You know, there's these three scales: the scale of preparation, the scale of cultivation, and the scale of purchase. And if you're moving just a little bit closer to the right on any of these things, then you're doing well. So the sort of questions you're going to be asking yourself. Okay. Also, the question is right at the beginning. You know, okay, do I know what I'm eating? Do I know where it came from? Do I know how it grew? Do I know how it lived? And do I know what it ate? And if you're on the right-hand side, you probably will. Now, there is a lovely bit that I've put in from the Science of Being Well here, and this is chapter 10 of the Science of Being Well, and what to eat. And I really like this guy, Wallace Wattles. I think he's a tremendous curator of great wisdom. You could say he's an author. Of course he's an author because he put it together, but he was a teacher, and he taught the principles of the monistic tradition, which is that everything is connected, more or less, and that we are all part of the same ultimate energy, and therefore we need to think regeneratively and not selfishly. And he wrote a trilogy of incredible books. One is called The Science of Getting Rich, one is called The Science of Being Great, and one is called The Science of Being Well. And although there's some wacky stuff in The Science of Being Well, there's some brilliant stuff there too. And I'm just going to read a little bit of this. This is from chapter 10. And he's talking about, with all the various ways food is prepared, how should a person know the proper way? So here we go. He should procure and prepare his food in ways that cooperate with nature. It is only when people work against nature that they go wrong. To illustrate this point, let us compare the health of people working in cooperation with nature with the health of these same people working against nature. In every climate, there are tribes who have learned over thousands of years the wisdom of nature and the best ways to gather, prepare, and eat the foods of the region in perfect harmony with the seasons and cycles of nature. The perfect health of these people provides a shining example of what is possible in physical strength and endurance, perfect eyesight and teeth, longevity, skill and agility, mental development, morality, and overall well-being. Moreover, they have learned the secrets of healthy reproduction and child rearing, such that there are not only happy, healthy children, but the absence of unsociable behavior. What happens when these same people abandon their way of living and eating and replace their foods with unnatural foods? They develop disease, deformity, misery, and unsociable behavior. And he goes through quite a bit more, actually, and there's some good stuff, but I'm going to just skip through to the choosing your food providers. This is really nice. These are questions you should be asking yourself when you're thinking about, who am I buying my food from? So the food provider, number one, the food provider is healthy, happy, and of a generous spirit. Okay, he uses no poisons of any kind in the production of foods. Number three, if he raises animals, they are healthy and treated with kindness, respect, and gratitude. They are fed only the best foods for their health, not for abnormal growth or food production. They are not confined in unhealthy conditions, but given freedom to move about normally and only sheltered for their protection. Interesting stuff. 4. If he fishes or hunts, he catches or kills lake, river, land, or sea creatures in their natural environment. He uses means that ensure the healthy survival of all the species caught, whether or not they are the ones to be eaten. So this is the more life to all concept, the regenerative way that you can actually hunt and catch living animals. You know, if you're doing things in accordance with the survival of the species as a whole, and not the degeneration of the species and the reduction in their number, then it's going to work. And of course, individual animals are going to be eaten, but they die anyway. Whichever way you think about it, anything that's alive is recycled. The atoms and the molecules get recycled. If they die naturally, then they get recycled by fungus and bacteria. If they perhaps die unnaturally and they're killed by other animals or humans, they get recycled through the human digestive system or the digestive system of the other animals. And so, the molecules themselves, there's a continuous cycle of everything. So it doesn't really matter that you're killing things per se, as long as you do it in a way which is certainly not gratuitous, but is going to be quick and not going to ensure any suffering. I don't tend to eat a lot of meat, really don't. I was eating no meat at all for a little while, and we don't really eat very much at all, just because I don't think it's very efficient. I don't think it's a very good use of energy. But I'm not averse to it, and it seems to be in accordance with the way we have developed and the way the world works. If there are farms, number 5, he uses only healthy living soil, uncontaminated by previous poisons. He replenishes the life of the soil so that his crops are rich in natural nutrients. His crops and soil are so healthy that they do not attract pests, and he farms in such a way that birds and other creatures eating insects on his farm are unharmed. Any water running off his land contains no chemicals that will harm any other part of life. This is reasonable. This seems sensible. It seems a sensible framework to work out how to choose your food providers. If that means you can't buy food from the supermarket, your local supermarket, then so be it. Now, again, this is talking about having a good average rather than being, like a commando on this. But for me, that makes a lot of sense. It's regenerative, it's healthy, and even though it's more expensive, in the long run, the expense, you have to pay for it anyway. There's no shortcuts. You can't cheat the universe. If you don't pay for it in money, you'll pay for it in the quality of life. You'll pay for it with your health. So, don't think that you can't afford to live on high quality, organic, delivered or locally grown food. You really can't afford not to. Unless, of course, you want a short and unhealthy life, in which case you wouldn't be doing this program. So anyway, that's me just being quite relaxed tonight, I guess. I've had a wonderful day. I've been at the friends doing barbecues and stuff, and I was so relaxed there. I fell asleep in the sofa in the sun. The sofa kind of sticks out a little bit. Well, it's still in the room, but they've got a nice big patio and French window, and all the French windows were open, and the sun was streaming in, and I was just after my lunch. It was lovely, and had a couple of glasses of champagne and I think maybe a strawberry gin. So things, I do drink alcohol and I do eat stuff that is generally considered perhaps unhealthy. I'm not a complete nutter. I'm not a fanatic on this. This is not fanatical eating, as I keep saying. It's reasonable eating. There will be no long-term system that will work for everybody if it precludes you from doing the normal things that society does, which is celebrate and eat with friends. And this week's focus was eat for fun. And if you go around to people's friends and you start ramming it down their throats about how you don't do this and you don't do that, then you're an idiot. And people aren't going to like it, and you're not going to impress anybody. And more than that, people won't be interested because it's not looking like it's working for you. You might be healthy and you might look healthy, but if you're coming across as a tactless buffoon and not really being aware and sensitive to the different eating habits and social habits of other people, then people won't want anything that you've got. It's as simple as that. Right, so that's it. That's the incredible algorithm number 12, eat what you control. Just think about that this week as much as you can. And that's really it. It's 20 past 10. It's a Sunday night. I'm looking forward to the US playing. They're playing at 11 o'clock. It's quite nice actually, because I'm now removed of the burden of getting emotionally invested into the World Cup. I love football, but it's kind of a constant disappointment, really, supporting a national team who are basically a bit crap, really, and that's England. And what's interesting is you always know they're a bit rubbish, and then as the tournament gets closer, you think, oh, maybe they might just do. Actually, they got. Oh, and then you start thinking, oh, they could be quite good this time, and then you realise it doesn't make any difference at all. I'm not saying that I don't want to enjoy sport and I don't want people to enjoy sport, but really it's quite interesting that whether or not you win or you lose a World Cup, it really has no influence on anything at all other than the World Cup. And it might perhaps encourage more people to do football in the country that does really well because they like the adulation and the fame. But really, is it greater life for all? Is it really bringing restoring balance to the force, for example? I don't know. I don't think so. 100 years ago, we're about to embark on a world war, so a World Cup is much better than a world war. But it's kind of interesting the fact that we get so many nations of the world sort of really gung-ho about their own team for once, and whilst that's nice to unify people, it's a zero-sum game. You've only got one winner, and I don't think we should invest a lot of our energy and time into things with only one winner. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, okay, that's enough of my stuff. I can save that for other programs. Have an incredible week, guys, and it's the last one of the actual algorithms, so really enjoy it, and looking forward to seeing the results at the end of the cycle in week 13. I know what a difference it makes to people who just more or less stay to the program. They don't need to even do it like fanatically. They kind of more or less on it. It's a very forgiving system, so I'm really excited about how your relationships with food have changed over the last cycle, the last 12 or so weeks. Just keep going, and one more week of new things, and then that's it really. That's all the new information all done. You just have to keep being reminded of it, and keep focusing on it marginally, little by little, and it'll work a treat. It'll work like a charm, whatever. I'm done. All right. Have a lovely week, and see you in the chat rooms of the world. Bye.